Welcome to another episode of Profitable Chats. Today we've got something sort of exciting, so I can't wait for us to get started. So here we go.
Yep. Today we want to just kind of brag on God a little bit and talk about some of the stuff that He's been doing. We've been kind of talking about the gifts of the Spirit in the last one that they haven't passed away. And one of the biggest ways we know they haven't passed away is walking in them.
Yeah, we're seeing
experiencing
them. Yes.
So this is more of just kind of a testimony of seeing some of those gifts in action, as well as just kind of bragging on what God's doing and sharing a testimonial kind of thing.
That's good.
So do you remember about how long ago we started going to life group?
3 months,
3
maybe?
months. Okay. So we were invited to a life group. Meets every other Saturday. And so there haven't been a whole lot of them since we've been going, but we've really just gotten to really know the people there and love the people there and just become part of it. And it's been really cool. And one of the couples...
We love y'all, by the way.
Very much, very much. And one of the couples, I remember we were there one night and he has had a lot of food issues.
Right.
Gluten issues and
I think that's the primary one.
I think so.
Okay.
There are multiple things that affect it, but I remember that one time he even told us that he ate some chips that were
you're talking
gluten-free.
really fast.
Sorry.
Ate some chips,
Also,
which he thought were
just a couple.
gluten-free, and they were corn chips, and corn does not have gluten, that I understand, and he had a pretty big reaction that lasted him for a while.
That's what really surprised me.
He would go through these extreme
reactions.
Routes. No, I'm saying
to
repair the damage or whatever, that affected him, whatever. Yeah, things that I'm like, you're only eating grapefruit and drinking grapefruit juice for every meal for a week and a half or something.
Just because of a couple chips.
Yes.
So, very severe thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so everything that he did, I mean, it changed his entire life. Everything he eats, he has to be so careful. If he misses one thing, it would just, and I remember we were actually just closing out one of the life group nights, and the Lord showed me that he wasn't going to have that for very much longer.
So this is a word.
It was a word of knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a word of knowledge. The Lord just said, that's not going to have that much longer. But the Lord didn't tell me how much longer. I didn't get moved to pray for him right then.
Okay.
A lot of people, you hear it and you just jump on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's also a timing in God's word that we often miss. So I just kind of held on it. And first I didn't say anything to him because I just want to make sure that it was God. I do, I put it on the shelf.
Yep.
And asked the Lord, if it's you, bring it back. And he did. So I was faithful and just told him, hey, you're not going to have that too much longer. I don't know what the timeline is, but just know that stop calling that your issue, your stomach problems.
Which speaks back to one of the episodes about speaking life or death. So yes, begin to speak life over yourself. Yes.
Absolutely.
So, I can now be the circle back girl.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Are we allowed to say that? Okay, go ahead.
Some people got that. Some people didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it started seeing it at that point. And then I think that was on Saturday. And I think maybe the following Monday night when we were at prayer, they were there. It might have been a week later. But definitely some time. But
at a prayer night.
At prayer night.
At church this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Lord had me tap you and say, hey, let's go, we need to go pray over them. And
it's a husband and wife. I don't know if we said that. Okay, a husband and wife, yes.
And they probably wouldn't care if we use their names, but we're just not going to because it's personal. But so we went up there to pray over them. And I remember praying over him and just seeing this picture of
a vision.
Yeah, it was an open vision because
you were awake and had your eyes open.
We explained open vision and closed vision, all that stuff. But yes, I was just praying, but I could just see this. It kind of like went from this side through his gut, but then it continued on out, kind of like a string or a pole or something. And I couldn't quite. I didn't know if it was pointing to his wife or just because she was next to him.
She happened to be sitting there.
Yeah. And at that point, the Lord wasn't showing me exactly what it was. I was just seeing parts of it. And he even said that when I was praying over him, at the time that I was seeing it, before I was even speaking it, he could feel something like from here going through to here. He could actually physically feel it. And this is before I even said it.
Right.
So that was pretty cool.
That was already cool, yeah.
But I was just, I'm telling him, I'm seeing something going through, and I don't know if it's connected to her, if it's just, I'm just seeing it going in that direction. It's attached to something else. I didn't know. So I just said, just pray about that and listen. For some reason, the Lord's not giving me the whole picture yet, but, we just trust Him. And I think it was that night, wasn't it, that he texted me?
Oh, I thought it was the next day, but I don't know. Short time frame, nevertheless.
And it was, he said, yep, I think I know what that is. And I said, okay, what do you think that is? And he said, I think it's, my addiction to vaping. And I'm like, okay. And in your head, yes, vaping can cause those kind of issues and can give you physical issues and things like that. And I'm like, okay, but my spirit said,
but kind of, he was thinking that's a sin or a
punishment of sin or a result.
Well,
of
I'm
sin
saying a sin or an addiction, whatever that he has. So that's what came to him.
Yes.
Well, it could be this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But I just didn't feel that was right in my spirit. So I said,
I remember you saying,
yeah,
this is I believe this is
a distraction. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just told him, pray about it, put it before the Lord, spend the next 3 days. And I even said, pray in tongues over it the next 3 days. Get the connection between you and the Lord going and just have Him reveal if that's it or not. But just, I just didn't feel like that was it. And I remember the next morning heading to work. We're driving an hour to work every morning, it seems like, depends where we go.
A lot of times.
And I'm just praying, and the Lord brought him to me. And so I'm just praying over him, and I knew immediately that it was attached to his wife.
Okay.
I'm now seeing it as I'm praying. I'm seeing the rest of it, and I'm seeing it being attached to her heart.
Okay.
I was like, all right. And then I just kept hearing bitterness, root of bitterness, root of bitterness. So I'm like, all right.
You're like, what?
I didn't know what that
what's
meant.
Up with that? Right.
But again, a word of knowledge. So I just remember texting him and said, hey, is there, how long have you had this stomach issue?
Yeah.
And he said, it's been a couple years, about 2 years.
So not from childhood
whatever. I thought this would be something that he grew up with.
Something that developed apparently out of thin air type of deal.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, did something happen around that time, within a year, one way or the other, that could have caused a root of bitterness in your wife? And he said, I was unfaithful. Right around that time. And I went, well, that would do it. So
because obviously that would
create that root of bitterness. Yes.
Sure,
and whenever you have that root of bitterness, now you're just, because you're bitter, you're going to speak evil things and think evil things that, because you're angry, you're bitter.
Well, and perhaps not even, I understand you're saying evil, but you just mean words of death rather than words of life.
Yes. Okay. And the Lord just showed me, there you go. That's what we're getting at. And so the enemy tried to distract us with the one answer. Because if we would have just grabbed onto that and just did that, that's where we'd be stuck. Nothing would have changed.
And nothing would have happened to his stomach issue or about it.
Correct,
or whatever.
because that was not the root.
Right.
The enemy threw something, tried to distract us. So it's so important that we're connected with the Spirit, that we listen to His voice. He knows the answers. He knows the truth.
Yeah.
And so that right there, just I remember just leaping in my spirit, going, that was a victory just in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because the enemy tried, he failed. My God is perfect. He is good. He just kept faithful. Us focused.
Yes.
And so now we know what it is. So we're like, okay. So now we've talked to both of them saying, hey, We know what this is now.
And we understand.
And
yeah.
It's kind of important because we shared this again with somebody in the life group. And
who already knew the situation. I'm just saying,
yes.
we were not gossiping.
Yes. They knew the situation.
And
it's a leader.
Yes.
And he said, wow, that's amazing, because we thought that was already taken care of because they went to counseling.
Right.
After that happened. And he goes, I was even there with them.
After the unfaithfulness occurred, they went to marriage counseling or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
And thought that was dealt with. And it was on the surface, but that's the thing that we've entered into. I don't even understand it completely. This everybody's got to counsel and be counseled, and there's just counseling after counseling after counseling, and it's just a different culture or whatever nowadays than we grew up in.
Sure.
Not that counseling's bad at all. The Word of God talks about seeking good counsel and wise counsel, and
and then there's success. I can't remember the word, but in wise counsel, right?
Exactly. So counsel's important, but I think there's been such a shift that it's become the answer instead of God being the answer.
Right.
Counseling is the answer, even if it's godly counsel. We've tried to cure things with words, but God showed me in that point that the counseling addressed the outside, but the spiritual was never addressed
in this situation.
Yes. So counseling has got to be it's got to be not just word-based, but it's got to be spirit-based. Because the word can deal with we can deal with the actions and the mind thoughts and things like that. But if you don't deal with the spiritual roots, you're not taking care of the problem.
Right.
So in revealing this, we were seeing that it wasn't fixed. Some of the stuff was addressed.
And they stayed married.
Oh, yes.
I mean, obviously, so it worked to some degree.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. But there was still this stomach thing. Okay.
And so...
And the bitterness, or else you wouldn't have seen that either.
Correct. Even though they thought they dealt with it.
Right. But it's an inside.
Thing. When there's a complete difference between the spiritual and the physical, even though both of them affect and are affected by the other.
Right.
But you deal with one that doesn't fix the other. And so you've got to deal with the very root. And we're spiritual beings in a physical body, so the very root is going to be rooted in the spiritual.
Right.
So if you don't address the spiritual, I don't want to say it's not worth addressing the outer, but
you're definitely missing a part.
In a lot of cases, you might be slapping over a Band-Aid over something that's just festering underneath.
Sure.
So,
and in this case, that is what happened.
In this case, it was. Absolutely. And they didn't know it.
Of course not.
But God's goodness.
Yeah.
He wanted them healed. And they thought that was fixed.
Yeah.
But God loves us so much. He's like, hey, no. I'm going to speak to you and I'm going to bring this thing out and we're going to do this right. And so we thought we would get to pray over them right away. Go ahead.
It could be better.
Yes.
So you think it's fixed, but it could be better.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. So we thought we'd be praying over them right away, but God's timing wasn't in there. So it's been, we've had some times in between and we're like, yep, I think it's going to be tonight. And the Lord said, nope, not tonight.
Right.
Like, okay, we're waiting. And then last Monday, we're at prayer night, and God says it's time. So grabbed you, 2 other people from the life group.
Well, one is the leader that we had already had discussions with. And then, another member of life group who happens to go to our church. So we all got together.
And pulled them aside, went in the room by ourselves, and we just addressed the root issue. And we addressed it from a spiritual aspect. And one of the beautiful things about that whole session was the Lord used each one of us. It wasn't just one person dealing with it. Right. It took every one of us dealing with different parts of the spiritual healing to make it complete.
We neglected to say that ultimately we learned that she had also been unfaithful.
Correct.
It was like a retaliation type.
And so there was bitterness in him as well.
Yes, so they both were having some issues. So it wasn't
that they didn't realize they were having.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Just God is faithful.
So
and so all four of us ministered in different ways. All four of us did some different stuff, said different words, and looked at things from different angles.
Yep.
I don't mean to steal your
that's
story.
perfect.
Go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. Using each one of our giftings to address the issue. It took a body to do it. Yep. And that's again what we're talking about with the ecclesia. And when we gather, it's not just one person up front that's going to do all the work. It's the body that he equips and he gifts so that these things can happen.
So we can build up each other and work on healing each other, which is exactly what we were attempting to do that night. So
not only attempting to do.
Well, that's what I was waiting for you to get there.
So we get done with that, and both of them are so much lighter.
Yeah, just immediately.
Just immediately. Yes. As a matter of fact, he was dealing with a physical reaction right then. He thought he was going to have to leave. He was doing so bad.
Oh, I
didn't know that.
Even realize that.
But he's like, no, I'm really struggling. But no, I want to do this. Okay. And immediately when we started praying over him, it was lifted. And so we asked for a report a couple of days later. Yep. And he's like, I'm eating a few different things.
He's like, I'm eating everything I want.
And then today he said that, yes.
Well, he said that day.
Oh, did he?
I texted him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
I thought it was just, I'm eating some things and it's good. But yeah, today he's bragging about all the things that he's eaten that he hasn't gotten to eat. Absolutely no issues. One or two corn chips could take him down for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And now he's eating anything he wants and not having any issues. And their marriage is stronger now than it has been.
And because one of the things, there were a lot of things that were ministered that night, but one of the things was speak life to each other. So, and obviously right then, they thought they had forgiven each other. But right then, they forgave each other in a whole nother way or a deeper level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and immediately when we stood up from that ministry time, they were both smiley and lighter than we had seen them the whole time we've known them.
Oh, absolutely. And so that makes me want to touch on a couple things. One, the Lord reveals things not to shame people, but to heal people.
Yes.
There's so many people that think that a prophetic word or a word of knowledge or whatever, somebody's going to come up and tell and just list off every evil thing that you've ever done and
all
beat
your
you
thoughts
down.
Or all your,
And that's not my God.
That's not how it works. Because often, am I allowed to? I think I'm interrupting you.
No.
Often, I'm going to say every time, the Lord is dealing with you personally. And perhaps you've been ignoring. And that would be why he uses someone else. Yes, a prophet or a word of knowledge, whatever. Yeah, to just help you.
Or you just don't, you're too close to the situation, so you don't see it. And so it takes that. But when God does that, it's to bring healing.
Right. It's not
to bring restoration. It's not ever to bring shame, condemnation, guilt. That's all from the enemy.
Because there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus.
Yes, and yes. So that was one thing that I wanted to bring up. But it's just neat how it took a word of knowledge to kind of unlock this thing. I didn't have a clue. I didn't even know any of that stuff in the past. I didn't know any of that. But the Spirit of God that's in me knew. And for some reason, he honored me with it so I could share it with him. He could have done that with anybody there. Of
course.
Because we're all gifted by him. But it took that word to kind of unlock it. And then it took me listening to know and having discerning that the enemy was trying to distract us here versus that was the truth.
So we couldn't get to the real issue.
Correct.
Yes.
So we had a word of knowledge, we had discernment in action, and then we had the gift of healing in action. And even during that time of healing, we had, I believe we had people were using discernment and another word of knowledge to get to the deeper stuff and get that taken care of. And even the leader of the group, I didn't share this with you, but today he said that he had a word for him the next day or the next night or something that both of them needed to hear that helped it even more.
Awesome.
So that's why God gives us these gifts. That's why they're so important in the body, because it brings a level of healing that we can't do with just words.
Right.
Even words, based on accurate words, based on this is a beautiful thing. But if we have this without the Spirit, we don't have anything.
And we definitely don't conquer the entire battle. Correct.
So that's our bragging on God. He's amazing. He uses his gifts to unlock those things, to bring healing, and strengthen us. And that's why he wants to use those. And it's just so beautiful to see them. Their marriage is closer.
Yeah. Yep. And it's only been a week.
Yep.
And they both just look so much happier than they have been, even though they smiled before or whatever. Yep. But yeah, there's just a lightness about the both of them. And because there was the stomach and gluten thing for him was healed. The bitterness in both of them was healed. The unforgiveness that they still harbored but didn't realize they did, that was taken care of, and it took all four of us. It really did.
It absolutely did.
So I'm convinced that was the perfect way to have the two extra people in with us, so we could work together as a body. Yeah. Yep. So good news.
Yes, very much.
Good news. So see, God is so awesome if you just listen,
let him.
Walk in the Spirit, have him guide your every step. That's also something that we just did. So small steps brought about great reward for this couple. And God gets all the glory, every bit. So anyways, so you guys know who you are, and we love you. Those of you who helped us in that ministry, we love you. We're so thankful. Also, we love all of y'all. We're so happy that you listen to us and keep hanging with us. So it's fun. It's fun. So we hope that you have a great Sunday. Like and subscribe and comment, ask for prayer requests. Have a testimony.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
We would love to hear it. Really anything. We just enjoy the conversation back and forth. So have a great Sunday. I think we'll go watch NASCAR. Pretty sure.
Sounds good.
Thanks, y'all.